We will go ahead and get started. Welcome to this evening's webinar, Military Career Options. The chat feature is enabled, so if you have any questions throughout today's webinar, please feel free to drop those into the chat if you are joining us on Zoom. And if you are on our Facebook joining us, feel free to drop those comments in the chat as well. So tonight's presentation, we are going to go over how to the military and specifically how to join the military, what to expect when enlisting, education benefits, jobs in the military, finding the right job in the military. And then we're going to talk about the various military branches as well as the military academies. So first up, how to join the military. So there are a couple of different ways that you can join the military, and those would be the non-commissioned route, which is through enlistment. And then there's commissioned routes, which are through officer candidate schools, ROTC programs, academies, and direct admissions. And we are going to go through all of these in more detail here in a little bit. And then there is also active duty, which are the full-time military careers, and reserve options within the military, which is serving while continuing your civilian career. So what is the difference between non-commissioned and commissioned routes in the military? The main differences are in the training. So with your non-commissioned routes, you are going to go through your basic training, your boot camps, and then you are going to have a technical training specifically for your career. With some of the commissioned routes, you are typically going to be attending a 4-year institution, a college, and earning a college degree. And then that also then includes your schooling, since commissioned needs to have that schooling. There's a difference in advancement and authority as well. Typically with commissioned officers, they have a higher authority over others. Specifically, they have authority over the non-commissioned officers, and there is potentially more advancements in how they can move through the ranks within the military. There can also be variances in time commitments. Your non-commissioned enlistments, typically you sign a contract for a certain amount of years, and then you can be done. Commissioned officers typically have also signed a contract, but sometimes their time commitment can be a little longer. And then pay is different as well. So with commissioned officers specifically, they achieve a military rank before they actually assume their role. So in the military, you have ranks like sergeant, captains, first class officer, petty officer. With commissioned officers, they already assume that rank before they even are in the role that they are going to be in. So they might be in their schooling and have that rank. And then once they're done with their college degree, they get that role. Commissioned officers, again, are in charge of or command both officers and the enlisted, and then they outrank at all times the non-commissioned officers as well. So non-commissioned is your enlistment route, and this is where you sign a contract with the military and you serve until your contract ends. At the time your contract ends, you can decide to renew with the military and re-enlist for a certain amount of years, or you can be done and leave the military. So to join the military or to enlist, you typically meet with a recruiter and of whichever branch you're wanting to join. You take what is called the Armed Forces Vocational Aptitude Battery, which is the ASVAB, if you're familiar with that. You then have to pass a physical exam, and this is the Military Entrance Processing Station, or MEPS. You can also take the ASVAB at MEPS, and you'll take some other tests or exams while there with the physical and mental and medical exams as well. You need to discuss your career options and select your career. So when you join the military on enlistment routes, you will have a career, and that you will need to choose before you officially go off to basic training. You will select the job you are going to be doing. You are then sworn in. You have the oath of enlistment, and then you're officially part of it, and you join, and then you go off to basic training, and then you go off to your AIT, which is your advanced individual training, and then you serve. for as long as your contract is. With commissioned routes, there is the ROTC route for commissions. These are programs that are offered while attending colleges. So you, for example, in the state of Iowa, at Iowa, Iowa State, and UNI, they have ROTC programs. You would attend those colleges, majoring in whatever major you want, but while attending those universities and getting your major, you are also enrolled in leadership and military courses alongside your degree required courses for your major. When you are in the ROTC, you receive a stipend for your books, tuition, and expenses. And then upon graduation from college, you are a commissioned officer at the rank of second lieutenant. So you join right away at second lieutenant. There are colleges in every single state that offer ROTC programs, but it's not every single college. So if you're wanting to join, you just have to make sure the college you're looking at has an ROTC program. When you are part of the ROTC program, you do have a traditional college experience along with all the other college students there, and you also become prepared to be an officer in the military. There is also officer cadet schools, or OCSs, and this is another route to being joining via the commissioned route. And these are schools to train prospective officers. These are available for all military branches, and they usually last 10 to 17 weeks. In order to enter an OCS, or an officer candidate school, you must have already graduated from a traditional four-year college, or you must be an enlisted member already in the military and you are wanting to transfer to an officer role, or you must be a direct commission officer, which we will talk about here in a second. There is also military academies. So this is where you earn a 4-year college degree and you have the commissioned officer status. Military academies, you must serve upon graduating from that college. You must serve in the military. So some of the military academies that are around are the U.S. Military Academy, the U.S. Naval Academy, the U.S. Air Force Academy, the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. We will go more in depth on those academies as well. There's also service colleges, which are part of the military academies. We just broke them up here into 2 slides because there's so many, but service colleges are where you earn a 4-year college degree and get a commissioned officer status. At these service colleges, all students must participate in ROTC throughout college, but only those on an ROTC scholarship are required to serve in the military upon graduation. So on the screen in front of you are those service colleges throughout the United States. So those would be Texas A&M, Norwich University, Virginia Military Institute, the Citadel, Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets, University of North Georgia, and Mary Baldwin Women's Institute of Leadership. So any student is eligible to attend one of these colleges and universities, contingent that they meet their admissions requirements. And the only requirement while you are there is you must be in an ROTC program while you're earning your degree for whatever your degree might be in, whether it's health or business or physics, and you must be in the ROTC program. Some students who receive the ROTC scholarships are ones that they then will serve in the military upon graduation. And you are well aware of that before you earn that scholarship. And most students that want that scholarship want to be in the military as well. So then there's that direct commission position to be a commissioned officer in the military. So direct commission are leaders in a professional field who become officers. So this is maybe doctors, lawyers, and or religious purposes. So priests, clergymen, they are already currently a lawyer or a doctor in civilian world, and they want to join the military. And because they hold one of those fields, they can become what is considered a direct commission officer in the military. And then they will become the chaplain for that branch of military. They can serve either active duty or on the reserves. And the direct commission route is only available for the Army, the Navy, and the Coast Guard. So if you are in one of those fields and you want to then join the military via the direct commission route, you can only be in the Army, Navy, or Coast Guard. So when enlisting, what should you expect? Well, first off is the recruiter. This is they work with the candidate throughout the whole recruitment process, and they help with the application, they help with MEPS, they help with basic training prep and career selection. So typically all high schools have a recruiter that they have contact with, or that they can, and then that recruiter can work with that student to set them up, talk with the parents to see if they have any questions as well. And then there is Military Entrance Processing Station, or MEPS. There is at least one in every single state. Some states might have more than one. And at MEPS, all candidates attend MEPS to enlist. This is where you can take the ASVAB if you haven't already and you don't have another station to do it at. This is where you receive your physical exam and you go through the medical history portion of it as well. And this is where you receive your final selection of your career path. This is the swearing in, or the oath of enlistment. And then this is where you depart for basic training. There are two different ways to depart for basic training. There's direct ship, which means that you report to basic right after MEPS. So, but this can be up to a year, depending on the branch and the assignment or your job that you are doing. So they might have already sent off a group to basic training, and your next group, your next branch, or your next career's basic training isn't for a few months, so you'd wait till then. But it could be this very same day, once you get sworn in, they might say, okay, you're leaving tomorrow on basic training. There is also then the option to do delayed entry program, or DEP. This is where you commit to basic training at a future time. So you go through MEPS, you go through all of your swearing in, and you say, I'm doing DEP, and you pick a time when you are going to attend basic training, as opposed to direct ship, where they kind of tell you when you're attending. With delayed entry, you pick a future time. But typically this has to be within 1 year of you going through and getting sworn in. So this is a great option for potentially juniors who are in high school who get sworn in, but they don't want to attend basic until after graduation. So that would be a potential reason why you would use delayed entry as opposed to direct ship. So then what happens at basic training? Well, basic training is the training program to learn the demands of military employment and life. There is limited communication and interaction with family and friends during this time. They can only receive postal mail. They cannot have phones, they cannot make phone calls, they cannot have emails, and they cannot have visits. Family members can attend the basic training graduation upon the end of training. And then after basic training, you attend additional training, which is your AIT, your advanced individual training, which is specific and relevant to your career path and your branch of military. So basic training, anybody in your group, your cohort, will be at basic training, and you all potentially can be on different paths for careers. So at the end of your time in basic, you might all depart and go off to different training schools. Each branch of the military has different lengths of basic training, as you can see on the screen. The Army has a 10-week basic training. Marine Corps is 12 weeks. Navy has a 7 to 9 week basic training program. The Air Force's basic training is 7.5 weeks, and the Coast Guard is an 8-week basic training program. So what are the educational benefits to joining the military? Well, first off is the GI Bill. So the GI Bill is from the Department of Veteran Affairs Education, and it's an education benefit earned by members of active duty, selected reserve, and National Guard armed forces and their families. It helps those service members and eligible veterans to cover the costs associated with getting an education or training. So it provides money assistance for members of the military or veterans to pursue a college or post-secondary education. Another education benefit from the military is loan repayments. So loan repayments is a benefit for those who are newly enlisted members of the military who have college loans or have college debt prior to joining the military. The loan repayment assist program will help pay off those college loans for those individuals who are new to the military and had college debt prior to joining the military. There's also a college fund program to help fund college, and then there is tuition assistance. This is funding to cover the cost of tuition or expenses for courses taken at any accredited post-secondary institutions while you're in the military. And this tuition assistance while in the military can cover up to 100% of tuition and fees or tuition and expenses, depending on the branch that you're in, that you join. So each military branch, their tuition assistance program runs differently, but it can cover up to 100% of tuition and expenses. So jobs in the military, how do you find them and what's the right one for you? Well, there are jobs in the military in all 16 career clusters that you will find in the civilian world. And 85% of the enlisted jobs do not involve any form of combat. 85% involve more of support for fighting forces. They aid in disaster relief or medical care. 95% of the military jobs have an equivalent job in the civilian world. So while you're in the military, you have a job there. 95% of the time there is an equivalent outside in the civilian world. So if you leave the military, you more than likely will already have the skills to enter and the training needed to enter that job in the civilian world as well. When talking about finding the right job, the ASVAB becomes very important, as the ASVAB score is used to determine the career field area that you are eligible for in the military. So every career is associated with a score on the ASVAB. While your individual preference might be considered, if your score on the ASVAB doesn't qualify you for that job, you might not be able to have that job. And so your score, your individual preferences, and the needs of the military branch that you're joining at that time determine what job you have in the military. So for example, you might want to be on the medical side, a paramedic or a nurse or a doctor within the military. That might be your individual preference. Your ASVAB score might be too low to have that. So right there, you might not be able to join and be on that medical side because your ASVAB score wasn't in the range needed to be on the medical route in the military. So then you would have to look at the careers that match your score and then pick from there what your preferences might be. Another example is you might really want to be in that medical field, that paramedic, but at the time of you joining, your branch might not have any needs for any more paramedics or any form of medical. So at that time, they might also say, okay, we don't need that. And so you can either delay and not join yet, or we can pick you a different career that we do need in a different area. And then again, you go to your specific job training after basic training. And that specific job training is called AIT, Advanced Individualized Training. And that is very specific just for your career. So everybody during that training will all be going towards the same career or the same career field. So now we're going to talk about the military branches. So there are 6 military branches: the Air Force, the Army, Coast Guard, Marines, Navy, and Space Force. There are active duty and reserve options in each of them. And each branch varies in terms of their service commitment, their location, and how members contribute to the overall mission of protecting the United States. So first up, we will look at the Air Force and the Air Force Reserves. So they have a 3-part vision, which is global vigilance, reach, and power. They are the Air Force, and so their main interest for protecting America is at home and abroad with a focus on air power. And they have a reserves which train and serve on a part-time basis. So they perform flying and other specialized missions for air as well. There were questions in about what's required to be at certain areas within the Air Force. I do not know all of those very specifics in terms of those, but your rank, how you earn your ranks, everybody, depending on how you join the military, will determine what your rank is. And then you can earn the additional ranks to become first class sergeants, to become captains, to become all those different levels with those ranks. So you have to earn those ranks within each branch, and each branch will have their different routes and levels on how to join those. But if you're wanting to be some more of those officer positions and leadership positions, you do need to join specifically through or you need to be on the commission route. If you don't join the military formally on the commission route through ROTCs or the military schools or direct commissions, you can join the military in the enlistment route and then go through that OCS, those officer candidate schools, and become on the officer side after enlistment. And then you can work up to then earning those other ranks and additional titles. And then there's the Air National Guard. So this is separate reserve component from the US Air Force. They train part-time and they assist first at the state level, but may serve nationally as well. And typically when you serve part-time through the Guard, it is 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks of the year that you are in training. Outside of those 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, you are living your civilian life with whatever career you have. And then there's the Army and the Army Reserve. They are the oldest branch of the military. Their purpose is to protect the security of the US and its resources. They are concerned with land power. They typically will move into an area, they secure it, and instill order and values before they leave that area. The Army and Army Reserve guards US installations and properties throughout the entire world. So they're stationed throughout. On the reserve side, you work in your civilian career and you can attend college full-time. You train and serve near home. If needed, you get deployed with the Army. And again, even the reserves, they're that 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year for training. And then there's the Army National Guard. Similar to the Air National Guard, they are community-based, but they are reported to the governor of its respective state. In fact, this is the only one in the Constitution for the Army National Guard required to have a guard within every state. The Constitution requires an Army National Guard within every state. It is the only part or the only portion of the branches that is required by Constitution. During times of conflict or national disaster, this is when the National Guard can be called upon to protect the US domestic interest. So sometimes with those natural disasters we see around the country, whether it's those catastrophic hurricanes or tornadoes or floodings, the Army National Guard can be deployed or put on duty to help serve their state and the community during those times. They can be deployed internationally along full-time members when necessary. So for example, when 9/11 happened, the Army National Guard potentially was called out internationally to help serve and protect during that time. With the Army National Guard, just like the reserves and the Air National Guard, you hold your civilian job or you can attend school while conducting your military training part-time, which is 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. Then you have the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Reserves. This is a maritime force offering military, law enforcement, humanitarian, regulatory, and diplomatic capabilities, mostly within the waterways, and they're really led to rescue, law enforcement, drug prevention, and to have clear waterways. So they are water power based. The Coast Guard Reserves trains and serves near home, just like all the other reserves. And they 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year are performing duties vital to the nation's security. So they are performing those duties during that time. Typically, the Coast Guard is going to be the ones that ensures that our area is clear and safe on the waterways. So there can be all of those transports, trades within water as well. The Marine Corps and the reserves, they're known as the U.S. Rapid Reaction Force. They are trained to fight by sea and by land. They are boots on the ground. They are typically the first in. They're the first deployed usually when needed. And so they are stationed at all times around the world. And so they're ready to deploy quickly and whenever and wherever needed. So usually when military is called deployed, the Marines are already there while all the others branches are getting there. And so the Marines kind of are cross-trained to be able to protect and defend by land and by sea. So at any way needed, they can go in and start protection until the others get there. For the Marines specifically, they have a service commitment range of 4 to 6 years. And the reserves provide a balanced, ready force. And typically on the Marine side, you see many active duty Marines enter reserves after serving active duty. That could be one if they enlisted and they no longer want to serve active duty. You'll see them going into the reserves side. They don't want to fully give up that life or the Marine life and the Marine brotherhood. So you will typically see a lot of active duties enter the reserves prior to full retirement. And then the Navy and Navy reserves. They deliver combat-ready naval forces while maintaining security in the air and land. They specifically will monitor the 100 international ports and the open ocean. So they will protect the oceans around the world to maintain that peace, stability, and safe trades. Navy sailors generally serve a term of 4 years aboard one of their 293 deployed ships. So that means typically if you're part of the Navy, at some point you might be living on a ship for 4 years as part of your service. And then again, the Navy Reserves, they train close to home. They can serve in the US or they can serve abroad as well. Space Force is the newest branch of the military. It was just signed into law in December of 2019. So as of now, it is still in development. So it's not fully up and running with 100% capacity. But their purpose is to have advanced defensive operations on land, air, and in orbit. Their focus is to maintain a military competitive edge in space. This requires very specialized training, and it enhances its capability through the acquisition and development of next generation space-based systems. So they're all about space. And because they're so new and they're not fully there yet, they do not have a reserve component at this time. That doesn't mean that one won't come later. So for more specific information about the branches, you can head to their websites, and I have those on the screen in front of you. And so you can go to either Today's Military, which we'll talk about and look at all sorts of the military options. You can go to specifically the Air Force Reserves or the Air Guard, and at airforce.com. The Army Reserves and Army National Guard, you can find more information at goarmy.com. Coast Guard and Reserves are at gocoastguard.com. The Navy and Reserves are at navy.com, and the Space Force is at spaceforce.mil. So now to talk about military academies. The military academies have 5 academies, like we reviewed earlier. Those are the U.S. Military Academy, U.S. Naval Academy, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Marines, and U.S. Coast Guard Academy. These academies are a highly competitive application process, and they must be started during a student's junior year of high school. Military academies, their applications usually require a physical and mental health assessment as part of their application process. As part of their application process, you also need a letter of support or nomination from state representatives in the House of Representatives or in the U.S. Senate, or you need the VP of the United States to a letter of support or nomination. In each of their academies, there is a way to get that letter of support. There's a specific contact within each military or within each office for you to contact. So it's not impossible to get those letters. You don't need to personally know them. There is a contact who then they have the letters that they can provide you. If they've already given out their max of letters that year, then you would not be able to get that from that person that year. So specifically in the military, the U.S. Military Academy, this is the academy that's at West Point, New York. Their mission is to educate, train, and inspire the core of the cadets so that each graduate is a commissioned leader of character, committed to the value of duty, honor, country, and prepared for a career of professional excellence and service to the nation as an officer in the U.S. Army. So attending the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, you are joining the Army. Upon graduating, you immediately will start serving. At West Point, you do earn a full 4-year college degree. Your tuition is fully paid to attend college. You must serve active duty in repayment or an obligation of that full tuition that was paid for you. While in school, through your 4 years at school, you receive a monthly pay at a predetermined percentage of that of a commissioned officer. So if a commissioned officer makes X amount of money, they're going to give you a certain percentage of that. So not the full salary, the percentage of that salary. The U.S. Naval Academy is located in Annapolis, Maryland. The U.S. Naval Academy prepares young men and women to become professional officers of competence, character, and compassion in the U.S. Navy and Marines. Students are midshipmen on active duty in the U.S. Navy upon graduating. You attend the academy for 4 years. You graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree, and you are commissioned in the Navy as second lieutenant, as in science in the Navy, or second lieutenants in the Marine Corps. And you serve at least 5 years upon graduating. The U.S. Air Force Academy, which is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It is a military organization and a university. It's set up like most other Air Force bases, particularly the 10th Air Base Wing. But the superintendent, commandant, dean of faculty, and the cadet wing are set up in a manner resembling a civilian university. So you have what looks like an Army base on one side, and then you have what looks like a traditional college on the other side at the U.S. Air Force Academy. Again, here at the Air Force Academy, your tuition is fully paid, but you have to do active duty service is an obligation for that paid tuition. And you too also receive a monthly predetermined percentage of the salary of a commissioned officer as well while in school. The Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York. They're a federal service academy that educates and graduates leaders of exemplary character who are committed to serve the national security, marine transportation, and economic needs of the U.S. as licensed Marine officers and commissioned officers in the armed forces. They're vital to the effective operation of the merchant fleet for both commercial and military transport in peace and in war. They abide by the motto acta non verba, or deeds, not words. So they are leaders that exemplify the concept of service above self. They have an obligation, a service obligation upon graduation in return for tuition, room and board paid by the school. With the Marines, you do not receive a monthly stipend like the other academies. They do receive a stipend during their term at sea, though. They are responsible for all costs associated with the program, and financial aid is available. Since tuition is not covered, they are responsible to cover their tuition and fees for attending the university, but they have financial aid available and or scholarships. The U.S. Coast Guard Academy, which is located in New London, Connecticut, is a top military college granting Bachelor's of Science degrees in one of 9 engineering or professional majors. So when you attend the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, you earn a Bachelor's of Sciences in engineering or one of their other 9 areas. You earn commission as an ensign in the Coast Guard upon graduating. Cadets at the Coast Guard Academy have an engineering-focused college experience. Unlike other service academies, admission is merit-based only and does not necessarily require a congressional nomination. Tuition here is paid in full, but you have the obligation of active duty service upon graduating. And here at the Coast Guard, you do receive the monthly stipend that a predetermined percentage of that of an officer's salary. So again, for more information about the military academies, you can go directly to their websites to find out more, to get access to their applications and knowing that process as well. So for the U.S. Military Academy, which is the Army, their website is westpoint.edu. The Air Force Academy, which is usafa.af.mil. The Marine Academy is usmma.edu, and the Naval Academy is usna.edu, and the Coast Guard is uscga.edu. So local recruiters. Like I mentioned earlier, all high schools, especially in the state of Iowa, have recruiters for all branches of the military. They are current military personnel serving active duty and assigned the military job of recruiter. So they frequently have been deployed at some point in their career or about to be deployed. Recruiters typically serve 1 to 4 years as the recruiter for that school, so it might change from year to year. But recruiters are there to help answer any questions students or parents have about the branch, whether that's the philosophy, the purpose, basic training, life in the military, deployment. Any questions they have, they're there to answer. They work with you to join the military. So they will be with you through the first initial application process, helping you fill out any forms, helping you submit any forms, making sure you're submitting what you need to on time, all your documents. They will take you to MEPS. They will also help you sign up for the ASVAB, whether that's taking it at MEPS or taking it at another location. But they will also take you to MEPS, which is where, again, you do that physical examination, that health examination, mental examination, and they will be there then with you being sworn in for that oath of enlistment. And they can help you prepare for basic training as well, whether that's just helping you mentally be prepared for that, whether that's helping you to ensure what to pack, what to bring. And at times, they might even help students prepare for basic training by getting them into the physical shape they need to for basic training. So for example, if you need to be able to run the mile in a certain amount of time, and at this current time you cannot do that, they will help and put you on a training program to help you ensure that you can do that come basic training time. Or same with any other, whatever the other physical assessments they might have, whether that's push-ups or running, anything like that. So like I mentioned, each high school does have an assigned recruiter for all the branches of the military. If you are interested in joining the military and do not know who your recruiter is or have never seen them in your school, please be sure to reach out to your high school counselors to see who that recruiter is, as they will have the contacts or know where to contact. And then before I part with you all, we do have a ICANN Military Career Fair coming up here next month in November here in Iowa. So November 29th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Kirkwood-Lynn Regional Center, which is in Hiawatha, so on the eastern side of Iowa, we will be having a military career fair. There will be presentations on enlistment and career opportunities, and there will be opportunities to talk with representatives from all the branches as well as the academies. So this is a great opportunity if you are thinking about joining the military. All branches will be there, academies will be there, ROTCs will be there from our 3 state schools, Iowa, Iowa State, UNI. It's a great opportunity to touch base with those recruiters, get all the information you need, and start that process of potentially joining the military. So at this time, that is the end of the presentation. If there are any questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat. And I will stick around for a few moments. Otherwise, have a great rest of your evening.